Hey, everybody, good morning and welcome in. It's the brand new week here with Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. And, man, a ton of football, some great SEC basketball over the weekend. Man, it was, if you're not a sports fan and you didn't love this weekend, Barry, man, I don't know what we can do with you.
Yeah, we're probably wondering what you're doing listening to us if you didn't like sports like that. Yeah. So, yeah, this is a recap day today normally, and we're struggling to figure which to recap first. SEC basketball was certainly compelling. Auburn and Alabama continue on. Troy took a loss on Saturday, very frustrating as well. And right now, it is a free-for-all in the SEC at this point. We'll kind of catch you up on that a little bit. Auburn beat South Carolina on the road 66-63. Alabama very impressive in beating an awfully good Texas A&M team in College Station by 6 points. They continue rolling along, and they both have home basketball games, and they both have them tomorrow. Auburn is at home against Mississippi State at 6. Alabama is at home against Ole Miss at 6 o'clock tomorrow.
That is correct. They're both tipping at the same time. So, Barry, you got to go dual.
You got. Yikes. All of a sudden, I just lost John, and I don't know why. I just lost John. Yep, his audio is gone. And
how about now?
Hey, there we go.
I was just saying that, dual screen with both Auburn and Alabama playing at the same time tomorrow night. I'm set. I'm ready to go with both games and check them both out at the same time.
Yeah, you got Auburn, Mississippi State on the SEC network, and then Alabama and Ole Miss on ESPNU. Both of them on the road on Saturday. Auburn at Georgia. Alabama at Kentucky on Saturday. Yeah. Do we know about Kentucky? Did we learn something about Kentucky on Saturday with their win over Bart Heisch's Mississippi State Bulldogs? Yikes. They look pretty doggone good. That should be good on Saturday as well. So there is that, and we can certainly talk about that. We can certainly talk about the NFL if you want to, but man, I got to talk I got to talk football.
I know yeah. On the NFL a little today. Not a good week in terms of picking the games, spread, so to speak, but we can get into that a little bit later. But I like all of those. Of course, the college football playoff game on Friday night as well was also on the note card today. So, yeah, a lot of recapping here today on the program. Big weekend, no doubt.
How does it feel for somebody who played Texas, so to speak, in the Cotton Bowl? Texas has got it. They're down 7. But they've got it goal to goal late in the game, and the Texas fans in Dallas are losing their minds. And for some unknown reason, Texas had it what? First and goal, second and goal at the 1. And Sark says, hey, I might try a deep toss sweep to the left side, see if I can get it to my back as far behind the line of scrimmage as I can. Let's see how that works. They drop him for 7. And then, of course, there's the strip sack by Jack Sawyer. You're thinking, if you're a Texas fan, you're thinking, we're okay. It's still goal to go, da-da-da. And then from 21 to 14, one play, strip sack. The Ohio State linebacker takes it 80-something yards the other way, 28-14.
Yeah.
I love the isolation shot of Sarkisian. I mean, I don't love it for his regard, but the panorama of the emotions of college football were expressed by the ISO shot of Sarkisian as the ball snaps in. Okay, here we go. And then he sees the guy strip the ball. There ain't nobody around them, and he knows that his season is over.
Yeah, Barry, I would have liked to have seen maybe an ISO on Matthew McConaughey. I mean, they seem to show him when Texas does well. Let's see when the Longhorns basically, well, I don't want to say what I came to mind, but you know what I mean. But yeah, we talked about that last week. The ISO shots on the coaches, the player, the quarterback that throws the pick.
Yeah.
That seems to be a big trend these days. But I can't complain. I had Ohio State to cover the spread, which they comfortably did. I don't think Notre Dame is going to match up well with Ohio State. That game's a week from today.
Yep.
So the national, there again, the season continues to stretch on and on. There again, talked about this last week. I'm getting college football fatigue. I didn't think I'd ever say that, but man, we got to tighten this thing up a little bit.
I thought this is what you wanted. I thought this was like, oh boy, more. Oh boy, 17 games. Who cares? They're young.
Yeah.
Now here it is, and John's like, I don't. The thing is, John, is I don't think you are alone in that emotion in the southeastern portion of the United States, where all the SEC fans are going,
yeah, they're done.
Are they still playing?
Yeah, I mean, we can have 20 teams. I mean, the more the merrier, but the scheduling has got to be adjusted. And I got to think they know it. 1 year in, we need to tweak this a little bit. We can add more teams, but we got to play these games a little closer together. There again, I love to use this card. They're young. They don't need all this time off. Heck, they can bounce back in 2 days. What's the big deal? Which is, sounds a little, like I'm not being serious, but I kind of am. I mean, what are we waiting on?
This is John sitting there with his knife and fork saying, bring me another potato.
Yeah.
I'm still peckish here. Give me hey, you got any you got any mac and cheese back there? I know.
Let's go.
I'll pay for it a la carte. Give me some
frustrating.
It's I don't care if you guys are short staffed or the waiters got 6 other tables. Give me more. Give it to me now. That's
what do you think I'm here for?
I want more. Yeah, the players are young. So
what do they say?
If the players are young? You've got to feed my needs.
Yeah, the customer is always right. Give the customers what they want. It's a great business model, great business practice. So, yeah, they got to tighten this up a little bit. And Bear, I'm hearing the NFL has got their eyes on Labor Day weekend. This stuff about college having Labor Day to themselves, I'm not sure that's going to last much longer. Looks like the NFL wants to start that weekend too. So are they going to panic and freak out and go, well, we can't play games against the NFL? I think there's going to come a time where they're going to have to. And if you're going to conduct this thing and, you're going to have it in a time frame that really works. I mean, there again, I love the playoff. I love the number of teams, but why in the world do they stretch it out so dadgum long?
Well, what can they do? Play Saturday, Thursday? Is that what we're talking about?
The NFL does it. And they sure are adapting a lot of NFL practices. The 4 teams that had the bye, that seemed like a month between when they had played.
It's a whole lot better than it used to be.
Yeah, well, sure. If you played your last regular season game and then played in the New Year's bowl game, it was ridiculous. But in a playoff format, we talk, about teams being hot and on a roll and have momentum. And, then you're having these long waits. And, I just think it's, and then, another thing they talked about as well, you don't like a sport starting in one semester and playing into the next, which I've never understood that, because doesn't basketball season start in the fall semester and finish in the spring? So I never understood that, but I kind of get what they're trying to get across. There's no way you can finish it in the fall semester.
No,
But 20
no.
days in, 20 days into it, I don't know about that.
I can't believe my ears. And I dream of a day, one day, when we can talk about the direction of college football and the needs of student athletes and the welfare of protecting the academic calendar. And the first words out of John's mouth in response in justification is, hey, NFL does it.
Yeah.
If the NFL jumped off the Empire State Building, does that mean everybody should? Hey, I know these are young people and they're fine. I want more. Now, are we talking about just getting rid of buys? And I don't care if you win a conference championship or if you're 12-0, you're getting the same amount of rest as the Mountain West Conference champion who goes 12-2 or something like. Is that what we're talking about? Just no buys whatsoever, no advantage for having a great regular season?
I mean, you kind of sounded like my mother there 50 years ago. I'm not worried about what they're doing. I'm only worried about you. You know, when I hit her with the, well, Bobby's getting to go. Well, I'm not worried about Bobby. I'm only worried about you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, the NFL does it, Mom. Well, if the NFL plays in traffic, does that mean you should?
If I had $1 for every time that's the response I got, I'm not worried about Bobby. I'm worried about you.
Still getting it.
I'd have a lot of money in my piggy bank. But, do they start it earlier? Okay. Week 0, everybody's playing. I'm okay with that. That's good. To me, Barry, the whole big fly in the ointment is these conference championship games. If they didn't have those, I think things would schedule out a lot easier. But there again, the greed of the college football bigwigs are not going to let it go. Oh, we're making too much money. Is this amateur sports? Are we in it to make money? I guess we are. So to me, that's the big issue and they're not going anywhere. I just can't, money rules, and I'm just going to have to sit here and complain about it. But I do have to say, and maybe because Auburn or Alabama are not in it, there's no SEC school in it anymore. Maybe it has lost a little interest in maybe our region of the country. I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority here.
What do you think? I mean, is it just if there ain't an SEC team in it, and there's not, do you just forget about it? You guys are watching, right? You guys are watching Monday night. Notre Dame? Ohio State, huh? Some blue bloods out there.
They're blue bloods, and they'll certainly get the. I think the rating should be good.
But in the Southeastern Conference, have we got our lip poked out? Well, if there's not an SEC team in, I don't care to watch it. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm gonna let you answer your own question. What do you think?
I think there's a certain fan base that says, oh, man, I love college football. Man, give me more football. College football's the best. Alabama stays at home after losing to Michigan on December 31st. They ain't paying attention. Hey, who we getting in the transfer portal?
Yeah, let me tell you what Bama fans freaking out about.
Who do we need to fire on our coaching staff?
Yeah, how many? Why are so many players going out and not as many coming in? That's what they're freaking out about. Yeah, and when is Ryan Grubb going to be on the staff? That's another thing that's got him going. What's taking so long? What's DeBoer doing up there? What's he doing going to a Falcons game? He ain't got time for that.
The real misfortune is that in the state of Alabama, gambling is illegal.
Yeah,
so
it is.
The one thing that John keeps preaching that could have caught the fancy of the sporting public in the state of Alabama in the college football playoff is forbidden to them. How many of you would like to take a little flutter on the national championship game, or maybe now that we're close to the divisional round, we're wrapping up the wild card in the NFL today, and you're thinking, golly, I sure would like to make it a little bit more juicy, a little bit more interesting, but I can't. I don't know
if our new audience has heard me say this before, Barry, but obviously this state is flush with cash. We have got more money than we know what to do with, and don't let them fool you and tell them that the bridges are falling apart. We need to build new prisons, and we need to build new public schools
in the elementary schools.
Yeah, we got plenty of money, because if we didn't, we would be having a way to bring in more revenue streams. Gambling, sports wagering, lottery, whatever. But nah, we don't need it, because we are flushed with money. That's, to me, I'm convinced that's the deal. I know it's not true, but it just seems that way. We don't need any revenue streams. We're good. Yeah, all good.
More money?
Don't need it.
No.
Don't need it.
No.
All right, so when we get back, more football talk. Notre Dame and Ohio State are set for the national championship a week from tonight. Ohio State, an 8.5-point favorite against the Fighting Irish. Of course, got a week or so to talk about that. Lugan Bill will join us at the top of the next hour to preview that game and get a recap of what happened over the weekend in the semis. Also, college basketball, big games over the weekend, some big ones tomorrow. And Barry, I got a big beef, so when we get back, get ready.
Oh boy.
Something over the weekend, I thought, here we go again. Nobody's listening to me.
Here we go. It's all still to come in our Monday live edition of the show, presented by, or in association with, Yellowhammer News. It's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Why Hands? At Hands Heating and Air, you get this area's highest ranked service provider with 24-hour repair service, no overtime charges, and their same-day service guarantee. Plus, instead of other companies' 30-day repair warranty, Hands gives you a 3-year repair warranty. Hands Heating and Air is here for you 24/7, 365. And service is not just something they do, it's their way of operating, for you in mind. All of Hands employees are trained to adhere to this standard. They work hard to ensure that this standard is maintained, and they are constantly looking for new ways to better serve you. Call Hands Heating and Air today at 508-5382. That's 508-5382, or find them on the web at 834hands.com.
Some days you hit snooze, but not today. Today you have to go on a run to get burgers for the tailgate. You've got to haul something heavy, a cooler stocked with Bud Light. When you've got beer and football, nothing is hard. Until the other team scores. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly. 21 plus, copyright 2024, Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Hey, folks, you got to take advantage of the incredible holiday savings at Stivers Ford in Montgomery, where they sell America's best-selling truck for 50 years in a row, the F-150. And you can get an F-150 at 1.9% APR for 60 months or up to $15,000 off MSRP and no payments for 90 days. Hundreds to choose from. Your F-150 is on the lot right now. Also, F-150 Lightnings, $15,000 off MSRP and 0% APR for 72 months. What about the stylish Ford Bronco? Up to $10,000 off MSRP, starting as low as $34,990. And it started it all with the Ford Explorer. You can get one for up to $8,000 off MSRP, as low as $33,900 and 1.9% APR for 66 months. Folks, Stivers Ford is loaded with cars, trucks, and SUVs priced to sell. Stivers Ford, 4000 Eastern Boulevard in Montgomery, where price sells cars. Okay, welcome back in, everybody. Glad you're with us. About 20 minutes past the hour on this Monday. Longshore McKnight, presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. So glad you're with us here. Appreciate everybody on our River Region Straw chat line. Good morning to everybody out there. Ty, Chris, the Bammer, Terrence. Really appreciate that. Daniel's in on it today as well. We got a good one here earlier from way offsides Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff, he checks in on the chat line. I thought that was pretty great. Jeff says, and this is a good get for Jeff. He says, to quote the great Lee Corso, it's like War and Peace. How long are we going to be on this thing? College football should be long finished by the middle of friggin' January. That is a great get from the archives of John and Barry way back in the day when we had Lee Corso on the program. I at the time was not a big Lee Corso fan. I don't love him, but I respect his longevity. And I'm thinking, Corso, Lee, that guy's shtick is gone. Anyway, so John says, "Oh man, it'd be great. We'll have him on. We'll talk football, blah blah blah." And so I had written out a few questions just to do my part. And, it's going along pretty well and everything. It's actually very entertaining, and it was a good segment and all that. And I knew John was going to say, "I told you so," later on. So I just decided to hoist up one more question. And before I could even finish my question, this is a charity question. This is just to make Lee feel good that, hey, he's on with us for 15 minutes instead of like 6 or 7, and you dump him, right? And so he said, "What is this, War and Peace? How long are we going to be on this thing?" And I'm like, "You believe. I was doing that for your benefit. I'm out of here." Of course, John over there was highly supportive of
rolling.
Me. Don't be that way to Barry. No, John was over there. He was laughing his behind off at the whole thing. Yeah. So how long this is, and I don't want to belabor this point. We got so much to get to. And yes, Chris, we do have the wheel. But what John's talking about, it's lasting too long. It's taken, too much into January. We could streamline this a little bit more. The Notre Dame versus Penn State college football semifinal. That was the Orange Bowl.
Yep.
It averaged 17.8 million viewers across ESPN,
Pretty
ESPNU, and ESPN2. But out of the 21 total, counting the old system, out of the 21 total playoff semifinals, that was only number 16.
Ooh.
You figure, that it's the playoff, it's a 12 team. Man, if we get to this, everybody's going to be, just jumping in and everything. Well, not so much. But that being said, the only Orange Bowl in the playoff era that has had a larger audience was 19 million in 2018 for Alabama versus Oklahoma. Now,
Barry, I don't remember a lot about that game. I read something, an account of that game a couple of days ago, and I'm thinking Alabama and Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. I just don't remember that game.
Spoile.
I mean, I remember one in the Sugar Bowl where some lady tried to jump 3 rows in front of her to, beat up some guy. But
Alabama beat Oklahoma bad in both instances. But here's to John's point. Here's to what John's talking about. Okay. The old way, boom, you have the semifinals and the finals, you were done. And you had a bunch of bowl games otherwise. That was it. You had 4 teams, that was it. And people liked it.
Mm-hmm.
You figure you have 12 teams here, teams are getting in, teams are moving on. You're starting to build an identity. A lot more people are thinking, that Marcus Freeman's okay. But the last year's first semifinal, Michigan versus Alabama, on New Year's Day, 27 million viewers. And you say, well, it's Alabama, blah, blah, blah.
From Pasadena?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And on New Year's Eve 2022, TCU and Michigan. Remember, Bob keeps forgetting that TCU beat a previously undefeated Michigan team. He said they clearly didn't belong.
They sure did.
Yeah. That game, 21.7 million for that.
Wow.
And TCU goes and they end up, losing badly in the national championship game. So the last 2 of the first semifinal games blew Penn State and Notre Dame out of the water this year as the semifinal of a true college football playoff, John. What does that tell us? We're getting, people are, okay.
There again.
How much longer is this going on?
We got to condense it. We got to get it there again. I think people like their college football during a college football season, and they like a lot of it. I mean, you think about it. What is it? The month of October, there's a game every night. People love it. But I think they kind of, there again, it's been going on since August. Let's condense this thing. You can add all the teams you want, but you just quit stretching the schedule out so dadgum long. That's what's got me. So I don't know, maybe they'll listen. Kevin says, preach on, John. Maybe they'll listen, Kevin. We'll see. Who knows? And Ty is keeping tabs on Danny and Bob. Haven't heard from them since Bama lost their bowl game. Bob did actually hit the chat line last week, I believe.
Yeah.
So we have heard from Bob. Have not heard
Wars.
from Danny. Not sure where Danny is. Maybe he's on another cruise.
And he's asking about Kirk Lehman, too. We'd love to hear from Kirk. Some of our regulars out here as well.
It might be too.
Uh-oh. I think we lost John again. Well,
see, I don't know why that's happening. My mic is somehow by itself muted itself.
Yeah.
I don't know why that happens.
I can hear you now.
And that is odd.
Yep, I got you. That's
the second time that's happened.
Yep.
Not only has my mic off, but so has it's muted. Anyway,
I can hear you.
He's probably not up at this hour, so we can do it next hour as well. But we have got our top 12 in the bowl prediction contest.
Oh.
Got them up, and we got a week to go before the winner is announced. And there it is. There's the top 12 of the Longshore McKnight Bowl Prediction Contest. At the moment, C.D. Powell is in the number one position. Notre Dame is his champion. And as you can see, there's to the far right, there's a lot of teams in red with a red line scratched through it.
That means that their team that they picked to win the national championship ain't playing for the national championship. So,
that's exactly right.
So that means there's a lurker. There's an outlier somewhere down the standings that has picked the national champion.
Well, you're right.
They may leapfrog a lot of people, it looks like.
And it could be C.D. Powell if Notre Dame wins out. I like his chances. But Barry, as you scroll down, we couldn't put the whole page on the screen because the screen's not big enough. But I will let you know the first person on the screen that has Ohio State is in the 31st position. That is Chris the Bammer.
You got to be kidding me. Oh, my gosh.
Chris the Bammer.
Chris the Bammer could win a huge prize. He could win all the aura that goes along with being the bowl prediction contest champion, and he's going to insist on an entire year of spinning the wheel. Yeah. He wants the whole program to be reading Philip Marshall and spinning the wheel. So
speaking of that, we're going to get to Philip in a minute. He caught my attention about something. Okay.
All right.
I believe you know Wally. He's in the fourth position. He has Notre Dame.
All right, Wally, I see.
He's looking pretty good. And that's just the first page. So I think if you're below that, you're going to have a hard chance. To me, it's a 2-horse race between C.D. Powell and Chris the Bammer.
Gosh, can you imagine if Chris the Bammer?
So of all the people that got in, man, people love Georgia. Woo, we got some SEC love, Barry. There's a lot of Georgia and Texas picks to win it all.
It makes it difficult for us because, you know, if like Notre Dame wins, you got 30-something people who had great picks, but they missed the last one and they won't get it. It's kind of like when we do the the golf majors contests.
Yeah.
Back in the day, and John would grade all of those. And it would be so easy if Tiger Woods didn't win the major. Because 85% of the people, give me Tiger. And it used to be a lot easier to grade those things. Same thing with this one. If I don't know what it is about people, about Georgia and the SEC, give me Alabama. Really? Yeah, I can't. I just can't go against the tide. Okay. All right. We'll throw you in there. So that's going to be a lot of fun for
congratulations. I could be wrong because, I don't know all the matrix and whatnot, but it looks like a two-horse race. C.D. Powell and Chris the Bammer seem to be the two contestants in the best positions at this moment with one game left. So we will see. Chris wants to know, is the Phantom going to place odds on who he thinks is going to win? I'll just say this, Chris. I like Ohio State. I think they're the best team in college football. I just don't see Notre Dame beating them.
What I'm seeing is if you're going to get some joy in Vegas from the Fighting Irish, they got to cover 8.5.
8.5.
8.5 for a team.
Ohio
That's
State's got to
10 in a
cover
row.
8.5. And what you got a total there, Barry? Because I looked at it earlier, but I don't have it on my screen.
I got it here at 45.5. That seems a little low.
Yeah. That does seem a little low.
But we shall
So,
see. I'm kind of rooting for Notre Dame. I've never rooted for Notre Dame in my life. I mean, Rudy, I was rooting for Georgia Tech at the very end.
Are you really? Wow.
Yeah,
I thought that guy that played the coach in that game was kind of a He wasn't very.
Yeah.
I don't know what that actor's name was, but
the guy who played the Notre Dame coach,
was
a guy named his last name was Harris. No, Harris was the name of the guy he played in. He was the pitcher in Major League.
Oh, that's right.
His name. Oh, his name is Chelsea Ross.
Chelsea
Ross.
Ross.
All of a sudden that popped into my head. Chelsea Ross. He played Dan Devine. They kept coming in and bringing him jerseys and jerseys and jerseys. And finally said, okay, we'll put him on the roster. I'm thinking, come on, that didn't happen. And it turns out that it didn't. But, yeah, Ohio State, I mean, they've been really good. Notre Dame, as somebody has pointed out earlier, Notre Dame has one 5-star in their top 22, in their starting lineup.
How about that?
I kind of like that. I really like Marcus Freeman, their head coach.
Oh, I do too.
Really
and I didn't realize, Barry, he played at Ohio State.
Yeah, he was a linebacker.
Yeah.
He looked like a linebacker to
He
me,
doesn't.
but yeah.
Yeah, he is. And Barry, he caught a little crud the first couple of years. It was tough. And people were kind of wondering if that was the right hire. Kind of sounds like another coach that people are kind of getting on these days. Give him some time. Maybe he'll be able to turn it around. We'll see. Hey, Tobias out in the desert says, stop being afraid of the NFL. Have your games on Saturday. If the Rose Bowl doesn't like it, tough. Tobias, I'm with you, man. I don't know why the Rose Bowl's like, oh, whatever the Rose Bowl wants. Oh, don't touch the Rose Bowl. I say the heck with it. It's a beautiful place for a football game, but you got to basically walk out of the stadium to go to the bathroom or get a cold beer. It's very inconvenient.
People think that, it's the Rose Bowl. It's the granddaddy of them all. It's an homage to the past of college. I mean, I've been to the Rose Bowl. It's all right. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with it.
It's old.
Well, ain't nothing wrong with being old either.
Well, true. But it could use a power wash and a facelift. Now, I will say this, Barry. The press box is really, really nice.
It is. It's like a Hilton hotel in there. But I'm with John on this one. So what? Oh, we can't go without the Rose Bowl. Yeah, you can. Try it once.
Yeah. See what happens.
Give me a break.
Yeah. I mean, Barry, UCLA plays their home games there at night. I mean, seems to be okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they're so good. Oh, we got to have the sun setting behind the San Gabriels. Got to have it.
Please.
All right. So,
nice,
Barry,
but I mean, you can live without it,
Yeah. Oh, you better believe it. All right. Luke and Bill in about 25 minutes. Looking forward to checking in with Tom today. Our River Region Straw chat line is humming. Really appreciate that. Everybody getting in on the conversation. Barry, we've got an email, Longshore and McKnight at gmail.com, our Marguerite's Exquisite Jewelry email inbox. And this is a subject that I teased it as we went to the first break. Yep. We're going to talk about it, Rex, when we get back, because I've had it. They're about to lose me if they don't change something.
And, of course, Rex, I'm on the total opposite end of this. We got that coming up. NFL, we've got the Victoryland 777 topic wheel still to get to, along with Tom, Luke, and Bill from ESPN. Yeah. We're busy here on a Monday in association with Yellowhammer News. It's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light. Hey, this is Barry McKnight from Longshore and McKnight, telling you about our friends at River Region Straw. You're not buying sticks or stems and pine cones. You're buying premium long needle pine straw from River Region Straw. Kenny and his staff have access to the best pine straw in the River Region, full of color that'll last all season long. They've got locations in Montgomery, Prattville, and Auburn, and no order is too big or too small. From a few bales to an 18-wheeler trailer load, River Region Straw also has seasoned firewood for the cold days and nights ahead. Pickup is available, and your order can be delivered if you like. They can even spread your pine straw if that's what you want to have happen, for sure. Call or text Kenny today, 669-5959. That's 669-5959 for all of your pine straw and firewood needs at River Region Straw.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Will?
Phoenix Physical Therapy is ready to help patients recover, recharge, and rise. They develop a customized therapy plan for each patient to get them back to enjoying their favorite activities. Their experienced team is committed to providing exceptional care in a professional environment. Whether you're looking to prevent or treat an injury, recover from a recent illness, or recuperate from surgery, schedule an appointment with our clinic and take advantage of our physical therapy, athletic training, workers' comp, and employer solutions service. Experience elevated physical therapy today. Call Phoenix Physical Therapy at 239-9316. That's 239-9316.
Okay, welcome back in, everybody. Glad you're with us. About 23 minutes to the top of the hour. Tom Luganbill will join us then. 58 fouls, 88 free throws. That's not what I'm paying to watch. I don't want to watch a free throw competition, and for Texas A&M, they can't seem to make any, particularly the front end of a 1-and-1. I've said this for years. I don't want college basketball to be like the NBA, but can we at least kind of just get a little bit of it? I mean, every time down the floor, the whistle is blowing, and I'm going, no wonder I don't like this game. It's too much stoppage in play. You got to let them play.
Alabama beats Texas A&M and covers 94-88. 94 points for the Crimson Tide. 94 points. 27 of them came from the free throw line. They took 68 shots from the floor. They took 40 shots from the free throw line. Texas A&M, they shot 48 free throws.
Yeah.
Almost 50 free throws for Texas A&M. Stop calling all those fouls is the response I'm getting. And the one that makes the bile rise just a little bit in my throat is John saying, that's not what I'm paying for. And he is the be-all, end-all arbiter. You know, okay, so the players are getting the snot beat out of them. So, you know, the teams are spending a lot of time having to practice free throws. Forget about all that. It doesn't suit my wants and needs.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Well, it's what I'm paying for. I am the final consideration on what should and should not be because I'm paying for tickets.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it all about, we said this earlier,
for?
Isn't it all about your customer base? And you need to keep them happy. I mean, Nate Oates talked about it after the game. 3 hours. Those are football games, not basketball games.
Well,
basketball games should not be 3 hours long. And when they're blowing all these whistles and they're stopping the game and they're line up again, I'm sitting there yawning, going, I'm not paying to watch a free throw exhibition.
Okay. He's right about that. He's right about that. If you want to sit there and watch people shoot free throws, it certainly is difficult calling a game like that because there's only so many ways you can be descriptive in calling a free throw. So I get that. There are too many free throws. But
you know, maybe if somebody goes Rick Barry and goes granny style, maybe I'd watch it.
Google that, kids, because that's a good reference. And that's worthy of you understanding what in the world he's talking about with that ancient reference to Rick Barry. But where does the fault lie? If Nate Oates is complaining because, man, they call too many fouls. How much of it is his responsibility? For those who don't know, and I got a reminder of this, Troy loses to Arkansas State at home on Saturday. Arkansas State is coached by Brian Hodgson, who for 4 years was Oates' assistant in Alabama, and before that was his assistant for 4 years at Buffalo. They're shooting two kinds of shots. They're hunting shots. Dunks and layups, offensive rebounds at the cup, or three-pointers. They are driving, and if there's a shot at the cup, they're gonna go for it. If not, they'll kick it back out for a three. In driving it so much, it's physical all the time. I mean, if the last basketball game you went to was in 2005, and you haven't been to one since, haven't watched one, and you come back and you watch that game or the Auburn game in 2025, you're thinking, holy crap, these guys are beating the heck out of each other. All of those things that you used to see with Julius Doc Robinson running the point at Auburn, or Enos Watley or Hollywood Robinson at Alabama, those would have been, you would have said, holy crud, what are they doing out there? It's 5 times more physical than it used to be. I mean, you are getting people knocking each other all over the place out there. And a lot of times, if you're vertical defensively, they ain't calling the foul on you. Believe me, if that game that you saw, the tone of that Alabama-Texas A&M game, if you saw that game and it was transported back to 2005, 20 years ago, there would have been 100 fouls called.
Well, I'm not so sure, because 20 years ago, I was banging my head up against the wall because the majority of, Alabama games, you mentioned Doc Robinson and some of those guys,
right,
consisted of, slow walking it down the floor and then dribbling for 25 seconds at the top of the key and then trying to figure out what you were going to do. So there was a lot of slow, wasted time, clock running. They might have called a foul, maybe they didn't. But now that the game has gotten so fast and everybody's going up and down the floor and they're hitting threes and this, that, and the other, from a viewer standpoint, I'd rather watch that type of basketball, but I don't want to hear a bunch of whistles going off either. And, there again, if we could have some happy medium, I think there's just too many ticky-tack fouls. I mean, look, if it's a big, strong foul, I get it. I'm understanding that. But some of these hand checks and just little stuff, I mean, swallow the whistle. I mean, 58 fouls, 88 foul shots.
88 foul shots for Alabama, Texas A&M. And again, a lot of that's the way Alabama plays. Texas A&M is physical too. 88 foul shots for Alabama and Texas A&M. Anybody care to venture how many foul shots were taken in the Auburn-South Carolina game? 28.
Don't know.
60 fewer. There were 28 free throws. In a lot of
does Auburn not play physical?
I'm not down on Nate Oates, but a lot of it is the way you play, man.
But does Auburn not play physical?
Well, they're doing a lot of the same stuff. I mean, not all of the same stuff, not to the maniacal degree that Alabama does. And you do get a couple of crews that are whistle happy. I mean, you know that. I know that. But a lot of it, I swear, I mean, not all of it, nothing is an absolute, is the way they play the game these days. I mean, I called a lot of games.
Like to see a game.
Houston, the Houston Cougars, who both Auburn and Houston's really, really, really good. They are maybe the best defensive team I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. They will knock the crud out of you. I'm down there calling that. Alabama beat them, Auburn beat them, Troy lost to them. I'm down there calling the Troy game, and I'm thinking, holy smokes, they're banging the Troy dribblers in the backcourt, for goodness sake. So a lot of it is that way, but I don't know that there's anything the referees can do about it, because if they don't call fouls, it is going to look like a football game.
Okay, I'm in. Can we at least just try it and see what happens? It'd be nice to see a player kind of, I don't want to say complaining, but maybe giving the ref a little lip about, hey, man, you going to call a foul tonight? But now it's like every time the whistle blows, they look at him like, really? Again?
Yeah, there's no blood. I don't see a bone sticking out anywhere. What are you blowing the whistle for?
I don't know. There again, I don't want it to be exactly like the NBA. And I've said this before, it's totally different being in an NBA game and watching it on TV. Similar to NASCAR and baseball, it's just
Hockey.
different being there.
Right.
And these guys are pretty physical in the NBA, and they let them play. And they will call fouls. But, I mean, there's a lot of pushing and shoving and this, that, and the other. Ticky-tack, that's not in their definition book. I don't think they have ever called a ticky-tack foul in the NBA. And that's just what bugs me. Just this little stuff. Man, let them play. Quit blowing the dadgum whistle. Just drives me insane. And I do think the maybe not the hardcore basketball fan. I don't know. Maybe they don't like it either. But I think the casual.
Lost him again. The idea again of do as I say, not as I do. And you've got to, I love that aspect from John. The do as I say, not as I do. Because back in the day, if somebody would brush John's forearm hairs in church league basketball, it would be like, hey, blow the whistle. Blow the whistle. He brushed the hair on the back of my shooting hand. So it's got to be a little bit different that way. So we can talk. I agree with it that there's too many foul shots, but a lot of it has to do with the way the game is being played these days. I mean, these are fouls. I always bring it back to John Calipari, who's whenever he first really got started with Memphis, his offensive philosophy was, hey, they can't call them all. Let's bang into them. Let's be physical. Let's see if we can get away with something.
Am I the only one here that thinks they call too many fouls? I'd love to know what our viewers and listeners think about that. Are too many fouls being called in basketball?
Yep.
Because I think there are, and it lessens my basketball viewing experience. I mean, don't I want to have the best basketball viewing experience that I can possibly have?
Across the length and breadth of this United States, the phenomenon of young people attending college and wanting something to do gainfully to keep themselves in physical condition and to espouse the ideals of teamwork and sacrifice and everything. Hey, let's play sports. Let's have a sports team that will represent our college, and we can have games with other sports teams from other colleges. This would be great. Boy, this would really augment our true college experience. Now, John has morphed all that into, it's all about what I want to see. I'm not playing. I'm not in college for the first time anyway. I'm not in college. I'm not playing here. I have nothing to do with the game with the student athletes themselves. So let's make it all about me. What's the final reason? What's the final rationalization for anything having to do with college athletics? Does it apply to something that I want? If it doesn't, let them
you mentioned over the last couple of weeks, we've talked about ratings when it comes to the college football playoff. Are people watching? Are they interested? I got to think games involving a lot of fouls, the ratings are not as good. People are clicking. I know I am. I mean, I'm sitting there watching it Saturday night, whistle blows again. I said, I'm out. I'm done. So I went over and I've seen that episode of Law and Order. That's a good one. And I better go back to the game and see what happens. Of course, I go back to the game. What happens? They're shooting another free throw. I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me.
That's like John. John will never watch like Sense and Sensibility or Pride and Prejudice or, The Remains of the Day or any of these great British dramas. Because you know why? All they're doing is talking. That guy is telling the girl that he loves her and she's telling him that she can't marry him because of her father, and they'll take a walk somewhere and there'll be geese in the background. And John's thinking, is somebody going to blow something up? I mean, who's going to pull a gun on somebody here?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm watching,
that's what it is. This is the equivalent of a movie where all they're doing is talking about their feelings. John's
Come
like,
on.
come on.
Yeah. I mean,
Wait
give
a
me a little
minute.
MI6 if it's a British film. Come on. Give me something.
Where's Schwarzenegger? Have we got anything on that we can, that kind of.
So, I mean, again, I'm just as a public service, I'm letting the networks know you're losing me. Unless you can quit calling fouls, you're losing me. And I got to think other people are getting lost too. Well, here we go.
That's where the strength of the argument comes from. If I think so, I got to imagine everybody else does too.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So for our new viewers and listeners, my steadfast stance has always been, if I'm wrong, prove it. But I'm right until somebody proves me wrong.
Yep. A little bit later on. As a matter of fact, we'll try to squeeze this in.
Yeah.
Before the next break. Theotis has got to be the happiest man on the planet right now. The former Reds, I don't even know if I can say Redskins without being
why not?
But yeah, he's a Redskins fan. And they win it last night. I watched that game. Commanders beat the Buccaneers 23-20 in the wild card round. Zane Gonzalez with a game-winning 37-yard field goal, right? And
that's right.
If that field goal had been 37 yards and an inch and a half, they would have had to go to overtime. He hits the upright, and it bounces through, and he's like,
"Doink!"
What?
Yeah, really.
That's like John hitting that putt to win the hole, and it circles around 3 or 4 times, and it drops, and everybody's like, John,
it still counts.
What? Is
yeah,
it in? Do I have to reach down and grab it out of the cup? Yeah, I do.
Back to the basketball theme, when you bank one off the backboard from 22 feet and everybody's going, whoa, and you go, what? What do you mean, whoa? That's exactly what I meant to do. You kidding me?
Meant to do that, whoa? Yeah. So,
hey, Barry, what can you explain? What is Dennis asking me here on the chat line? Dennis Mitchell.
Let's see. Let me pull back up here.
7:47 this morning. Let's see.
He says, "Hi, John. The Rolling Stones applies to you. You can't get what you want, but get what you need. If you try sometime, you just might find you get what you need." Talking about John may not get what he wants in this. The referees may not swallow the whistle, and it may start to look like Arena League football in there, which John's evidently okay with. May not happen, but if it doesn't happen, hey, it ain't like John's going to stop watching basketball.
Nah. Heck no.
That's probably a good point there. So the big winners, the reason why the Commanders have been so good, everybody says Jaden Daniels, adding Jaden Daniels, and he's phenomenal. I'm not sure if the Commanders are good because of Jaden Daniels or because of Dan Quinn, or rather it's because of the fact that the NFL made the Commanders get rid of Daniel Snyder as their owner, who was the worst. So the Commanders, they move on. Packers fall to the Eagles. Jalen Hurts back after a concussion.
Yeah.
Juan Barkley ran for 100. The Bills beat former Auburn quarterback Bo Nix and the Broncos.
Those uniforms, those Bronco uniforms are terrible.
Yeah, Robbie, it was never even close on Saturday. Between the Ravens and the Steelers. If the Ravens had wanted to, they could have won that game by 4 touchdowns instead of just 2. And the Texans beat the Chargers 32-12.
Big win for D'Amico Ryan. Big win for them.
Yeah, big loss for Kimani Vidal, the former Troy running back, and the LA Chargers. And
Barry, I did see that commercial with DeMarcus Ware over the weekend.
That was awesome.
I did see that.
Was great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I thought that was good. And there will be action tonight in the NFL. A little Monday nighter between the Vikings and the Rams, except it's supposed to be in LA. They've got those horrible fires going on.
Yep.
So they're moving that one to State Farm Stadium in Phoenix. That's tonight, ABC, 7:00. And Minnesota is a 2.5-point favorite.
So, Barry, later in the show, probably after Luganville, I will, excuse me, I will give you tonight's winner. Now, I need a winner to go 500 because we've only hit 2 out of the 5 that have already played. So we got to we need a winner tonight in the NFL playoffs. We had Houston and Buffalo as our winners, and we believe we've got the winner tonight in the game. As you mentioned, it will be played in Arizona because of the fires in Southern California. And we'll talk about that probably in the next hour after Luganville.
I got you. Yeah, the Steelers, they didn't do the Phantom right at all. The Phantom reportedly is somebody's getting the chopping block for talking him into the Steelers because the Steelers have screwed the Phantom over in the past.
They have
decided he'll give Mike Tomlin one more chance, kind of likes him and everything. Was not close. And he liked the Packers to get in under the get in under the 4.5 at the Eagles. The Eagles look pretty doggone good to me. If I had to look at a team that I thought looked better than any team out there, I got to go Bills, and I've got to go Eagles.
Yeah. And Tobias, I know it's tough. I know you're a big Tampa Bay fan. Tough one last night. Fumbles in the game certainly hurt the Buccaneers at home against the Commanders. I thought Washington's away uniforms looked pretty good last night.
I did. I like the
uniforms.
I think it's boring having just a block W on the side of the helmet. I used to kind of like having the Native American head with the little
boring, kind of like numbers on your helmet from like the 50s.
Yeah.
That kind of boring. But I don't want to get into that. All right, let's take a break. When we return, Tom Luganville joins us, ESPN college football analyst, as we recap the semifinals and get ready for the national championship game a week from today.
He's John Longshore. I'm Barry McKnight. In association with Yellowhammer News, it's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Book tee time sooner. Save on every round. That's what you get with the 2025 RTJ Trail Card. Destination golf is closer than you might think. Buy a 2025 Trail Card and save every time you play. Plus, you will be automatically entered into the Trails Loyalty Program. Enjoy 10-day advance reservation privileges at each location. 11-day advanced internet tee times on rtjgolf.com and the RTJ app. Enjoy the benefits of a 2025 Trail Card. It makes for a great stocking stuffer, and you save on every round you play in 2025 on the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail.
Some days you hit snooze, but not today. Today you have to go on a run to get burgers for the tailgate. You've got to haul something heavy. A cooler stocked with Bud Light. When you've got beer and football, nothing is hard. Until the other team scores. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly. 21 plus, copyright 2024, Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Don't miss your chance to win big at Victoryland Casino. Play the latest, hottest, most exciting games around with fun bonuses and big jackpots. Don't miss out on your free play. Stop by Player Rewards today and check out this month's exciting free play promotions. Come see why our players keep coming back. You'll have more fun at Victoryland Casino, where you can be a winner too. Victoryland Casino, located off I-85 exit 22, Shorter, Alabama. Must be 21 or older.
All righty, welcome back in, everybody. Glad you are with us as we kick off hour number 2 here with Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. And as we do kick off the second hour on a Monday, we are, of course, bringing in Tom Luganville, who is brought to you exclusively by Riverbank and Trust, local banking expertise, the newest innovations and technology, personal attention, genuine hospitality. It's all just part of the Riverbank and Trust difference, and they invite you to experience it for yourself. Welcome to banking above and beyond at Riverbank and Trust, with locations throughout Central Alabama and locations throughout the state of Alabama as well. Tom, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How are we doing this fine Monday morning?
We're doing well. We're doing well. I was going to, in recapping the college football semifinals, which was just such compelling football all the way around. The thing that struck me as a commonality in both of those games Ohio State beating Texas, Notre Dame beating Penn State, is time. We watched Will Howard and Quinn Ewers and Riley Leonard and Drew Aller. Golly, those quarterbacks, there were some mistakes made, obviously, some of them big ones. But my gosh, the level of compete among those guys, I got the sense that, I mean, they would have walked their team through the fires of Hades to win that football game. Oh, it was such compelling quarterback play, I thought.
Yeah, and I you got to have great quarterback play when you get to this point to have a chance. And I think that's where, having seen Penn State in the first 2 rounds and seeing them in person, that was not the Drew Aller that played the first 2 weeks of the college football playoff. And he just picked the wrong day to have a bad day. And he was just off, right? I mean, there were just throws that he would normally routinely make, and he just missed. Even the little throw into the flat to Nick Singleton, which Nick dropped it, but it wasn't a well-thrown ball. It could have been much better thrown. It would have been a touchdown, an easy touchdown. And that was really the difference in the game. I thought what was interesting in that Penn State-Notre Dame matchup from a quarterback perspective is Penn State's whole mode of operation was, okay, we can't let Jeremiah Love beat us on the ground. We can't let quarterback run beat us on the ground. We have somehow got to put Riley Leonard in a position where he's got to throw the ball to beat us. And you know what, guys? He did. I think that was the one thing that everybody was wondering. If Notre Dame had to throw the football, if Notre Dame had to create explosive plays through the air, could they do it? And that's where I thought Riley Leonard really acquitted himself well. And now, having won that game, kind of changes the perspective defensively for Ohio State, right? Because you're going, okay, well, everybody thought this guy couldn't throw it to win it. Now Notre Dame or Penn State puts him in that position, and then the guy answers the bell. So, but you're right. Listen, the Texas game and Ohio State was just a fantastic football game altogether. I felt like Ohio State finally looked mortal a little bit after the first couple of rounds of the playoff. And Will Howard looked like he came back down to earth just a little bit. But what a matchup. I mean, if you would have said to anybody, all right, we're going to have Ohio State and Notre Dame in the national championship game, just from a blue blood historical perspective, that's a pretty good ask for the first 12 round playoff.
Yeah, I would say so. You're right about that, Lugs. Speaking about Texas, the SEC's knocked out. You mentioned Notre Dame and Ohio State. No SEC team playing for the title. That's not going over real well in this part of the country, but hey, we'll get over it. The future of Quinn Ewers, what do you think about it?
I think that he would be better off transferring and going the route of finding a way to earn revenue that would be greater than a rookie NFL contract, especially if people think he's a potential 3rd-round draft choice. And it's not a great quarterback year. So I could see why he would be enticed to jump in. But from a financial perspective, you might actually be better off if you choose the right program and a program that's got a chance to compete for the whole thing. You might be better off from an NIL perspective, transferring, proving you can stay healthy, up your stock by having a great year, and financially setting yourself up. I mean, I look at Carson Beck, and that's exactly what Carson Beck did. I mean, Carson Beck,
that's the same thing, right?
It's the exact same thing. You have 2 guys that have played really good football, but then have also had spots where it hasn't been very good football. They've both been injured. I think that's always critical. I don't know if people truly realize at the NFL level how much stock they put into injury history. Because by and large, when a guy has a history of being injured repeatedly, that generally doesn't stop when you get to professional football. And they want to know if they're going to invest millions of dollars in you, are you going to be there each and every week? I think it's a bigger data point than people give it credit for.
And I'm glad you brought up Carson Beck. That kind of surprised me. I think it surprised a lot of people.
Well, it surprised me how much they're paying him. I mean, I don't understand. If these numbers are correct for a lot of these guys, I just don't get it. I don't understand what at some point or another, guys, this market's all going to come crashing down. And it's why we have to get to a point of collective bargaining. So if we're going to call this free agency, if we're going to call this pay for play, let's make sure everybody knows everybody else's cards. You know, in the National Football League, if there's a running back out there that's going on the market, well, every single team and every franchise has the numbers down to the penny of what the top guy in the league has made, a middle tier guy in the league has made, and that sets the market. Right now, we have nothing setting the market. We just have all these inflated numbers thrown out there. And at some point or another, there are going to be a handful of guys that have big NIL deals that don't perform. And then next thing you know, they're going to go, well, why are we paying these guys this money? Are we overpaying these guys? The answer is yes, we are overpaying these guys.
And when you said earlier in response to a question about Quinn Ewers that, you know, he'd probably be better off transferring to try and see if he can have have more compensation than he would as a third-round NFL pick. A lot of the rank-and-file college football fans are going, come on, Tom, that can't be right. A college quarterback making more than an NFL quarterback. The number that everybody's hearing about Carson Beck, why he pulled his name out of the NFL draft and is going to go to school at Miami, is $4 million for 1 year. Will Levis, who was the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans, was making $950,000 a year. Yeah. What you're saying, people may think, oh, that can't be true. It is true.
It is true if the numbers we're hearing at the college level are true. And so, but yeah, I mean, you look at Brock Purdy, what's his, he's like $795,000 a year on his current contract. I mean, what are we doing here, man? I mean, this is insanity. And that's where I'll give Ohio State some credit here, because they unapologetically, basically very publicly came out last winter and said, we're going to go buy ourselves a championship football team. We're going to go we're going to pool together our money, and we are going to target the best players in recruiting, the best players in transfer portal that we think could transform our roster to beat anybody on any Saturday and win us a national championship. And here they are with the likes of Quinshad Judkins, Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs. I could go on and on and on.
Howard,
Will Howard, getting ready to play for a national championship. So if you pick the right guys, it can happen.
Hey, money might not be the only reason Carson Beck's going to Miami based on some of the pictures I saw of his girlfriend on the internet. So
I know their dad is a very close family friend of ours. They live out in the Phoenix area, and he's got a business in Fort Worth, Texas. And he's actually a 5-daughter dad. He has 5 daughters. And let me just say, they all resemble each other.
Yeah.
This poor guy has had his hands full his entire life. But I'll tell you what's neat about him. When this whole thing started happening, and it really, you know, his daughters were part of the onset of all of this.
No question.
At the very, very beginning. And I was having some text back and forth with him when he goes, Tom, the beauty of this whole thing is, he goes, the girls have parents that are not going to let them screw this up. And the way we are setting this up, if they play their cards right, they and their kids are never going to have to work another day in their life. Now, they don't like me very much for it right now, but the stewardship and the guidance that we are providing, in 10 years, they're going to be looking back and thanking their old dad.
Yeah.
Which is a great story.
It is,
but
a great
the opposite side is that there are a lot of these who do not have that stewardship, Tom.
I know, and that's the shame. And what will end up happening, and we won't hear enough of these stories, and this is the shame of it, is somebody will perform very, very well in their first couple of years in college. They'll make a bunch of money in name, image, and likeness. They'll get the wrong people around them. Somebody will convince somebody to go into the transfer portal or declare for the NFL draft. They will have blown all of their money, not gotten a degree, and don't get drafted. Now where are you at?
Yep. And I think it's probably more of those than the success stories. Where are you now? Tom, I love the fact we got 12 teams in the playoff.
Yeah.
And if they want to go to 16, I'm all in. But I got to tell you, I'm having college football fatigue. And the reason I am is the way they got it scheduled. This thing is spread out way too long. They're dragging it out. Is there any way we can kind of condense and make the calendar a little tighter so we don't have these long off periods? I mean, January the 20th to crown a national champion, man, it seems like a long time, a long season.
It is. I think really the one main way you could look at this is you could potentially back up week 0 to either the weekend of August 15th or the following weekend after that to buy yourself an extra couple of weeks. You know, when you look at the FCS model, they don't start their first round of the playoff until Thanksgiving week. Well, FBS level's not even into championship week yet on Thanksgiving week, right? And so they have that head start. Now they've got more teams in their playoff format, but I think that the concern is it's going to be a long season. You knew it was going to be a long season. I think they're trying their best to create the healthiest environment for teams to be at their best this late if you happen to make it this far. And that's really the only rationalization I would have for it. I think the only way to buy more time and have it end up shorter and quicker, maybe earlier in January, would be to back up the season 1 or 2 weeks. And you know, you're still having to deal with the signing period. You'd still have to deal with the portal as it stands right now, unless that gets tweaked. And you're still going to have to deal with Christmas break and the holiday and all those sorts of things. But I get it. I see where you're coming from. But at the end of the day, how are you supposed to avoid it?
Right. Yes. Let me circle back to something else you were talking about before, about the Ohio State approach, and it's been blatant and it's been obvious and it's been successful. You know, just to simply go out and buy the best players they can to buy themselves a championship team. Somebody supplied this to the show earlier today on our chat line that Notre Dame's got 1 5-star in their starting 22. Does that, if that's true, does that speak to the job that Marcus Freeman has done?
Well, they may have 1 5-star, but I can tell you they are littered throughout their 2 and 3 deep with 4 stars. And so my personal belief on star rankings, and I've been doing this a long time, is we're always very, very cautious who we give a 5-star grade to, because when you do that with a high school kid, you're basically setting a narrative that they are fail proof, that they are going to be the top of the heap. You essentially give them no room for growth. There's nowhere to go but down from a developmental standpoint if you label a kid that. And I don't think there's as many 5-star kids at the high school level coming out for Notre Dame or anybody else as a lot of people think there are. And people will say, well, why don't you believe that? I say, well, because if there was, we'd have 2 or 3 times the amount of true freshmen making an impact than we actually currently do. So the reality of the situation is that a Julio Jones, you know, a Christian Wilkins, I can name any player you want to, a Quinn Ewers, like guys playing early as freshmen that are impacting teams. There's not as many of them as people think there are, but there's far more 4-stars that develop into the thing and have a higher ceiling at the top to grow into a potential 5-star performer at the collegiate level. And that's what Notre Dame's doing.
So how has Marcus Freeman melded this team, particularly after the loss to Northern Illinois? What's been his success point? What has been his approach?
So I think it actually goes back to what we were just talking about right there with roster construction. In our transactional landscape of college football right now, how is anybody supposed to maintain the team first dynamic? How are you supposed to maintain your core values, your standards, the expectations that you have? You know, you used to bring in 25 guys in a recruiting class, and then the next class, another guy, and then the next class, and everything was built upon each other with the same group that stayed together the entire time. Well, now you don't have a lot of that. My answer to your question as it relates to Notre Dame is they have had very, very few transfer portal departures. They've brought some guys in, but if you look at the development of that roster, retention has been a huge component. And I think when you have that and you have a loss like you had to Northern Illinois, the retention of your upperclassmen that have been in your program for 3 to 4, maybe 5 years, that's who holds the thing together. Would you expect somebody that arrived in July who really doesn't know a lot of the other guys to take that loss as hard as somebody who'd been in the program for 4 years? So I think that's where Notre Dame, from a team perspective and a leadership perspective, was really able to handle that moment. Now, I'll say this, and I'm a firm believer in this. and I would apply this to just about everybody that it happens to. When you have a game like that and you're coming off the high of the opener on the road at Texas A&M, right? You got 18 to 22-year-old kids that entire week leading into Northern Illinois. Guess what was happening? Oh, you guys are the best. Yeah, everybody's patting you on the back. This is unbelievable. You guys are going to go on a run. And all of a sudden, your focus isn't on Northern Illinois. And it jumps up and bites you. And they were mature enough to recover from it. And what a run it's been. I mean, to win 13 games coming off of that. I mean, it's been, I've said all year long, they are the team whose schedule was brutal, but their eye test was awesome. And their eye test has gotten better and better and better each week they've played. And to be honest with you, I think they're one of those teams, guys, that not only could win the national championship because they're good enough, but you kind of get the feeling that this is one of those team of destiny type groups where the stars align and everything that needs to happen at the right time. And you need this guy to do this at this time. You need a ball to bounce here. You need some luck. You need some help. It all just aligns. I feel like that's the season Notre Dame's been having. And when you have one of those, boy, you're tough to beat.
Well, you're right. You're right. I mean, everything lining up for you. Those, that can't be coached and it can't be practiced on the field. It's part of it. But
it was awesome. 2010.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the Iron Bowl, Auburn at Alabama? Okay, and Alabama, I think, was up 28-7 or 28-6, something bad, right? And they're driving, right? They're driving. And I want to say, was it Mark Ingram is running down the sideline, and he is about to score. I mean, he is racing down the sideline. It's going to be 35, I think, to 6 or 7. And the linebacker, I want to say it was Trey Williams for Auburn. I could be wrong there. But the linebacker comes at like the 30-yard line and swipes at the ball from behind. So a football is not round, right, boys? A football is oblong shaped. And that ball, when he knocked it out, ran straight down the field about 6 inches from the sideline and went right out the back of the end zone for like 25 yards. Did not deviate, did not do anything. And if you remember that 2010 Auburn year with Cam Newton, every time they needed something to happen on fourth down, it did. Every time they needed a stop here, it did. Every time they needed everything just aligned. And when I saw that ball roll straight almost 30 yards through the end zone, I was like, that's it. This is
we've
referenced the season they're going to have.
We need to have about 5 seconds to allow our many of our listeners to stop banging their heads against the wall. Tom asking if anybody remembers that makes me smile because
they do. We refer to it as the tightrope play.
The tightrope play.
Tightrope play. Now I thought you were going to mention the play that Trent Richardson is wide open and hits him in the numbers. All he's got to do is catch it and turn and go about 10 yards and he scores.
Again, you need everything to align. And it did. And that's kind of what's happening with Notre Dame.
You're right about that. Tom, I don't know if you can gauge one over another, but certainly we're in a different age. I'm thinking 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was all about recruiting. Man, this time of year, people were chomping at the bit, couldn't wait till the first Wednesday in February. I mean, it was just, who's visiting, who's doing this, who's doing that. Obviously, that's still important. But when you travel around the country and talk to these coaches, and I don't know if you can put a value over one over the other, but do you get the sense, are coaches more concerned or working harder with transfers or with recruiting?
I know what they want to be doing. They want to be dealing in the world of recruiting and high school players and foundational players and player development and then retention and then reward the guys that have played well that they've retained through name, image, and likeness. I think the vast majority of college programs would love to, sprinkle in some transfer portal guys. Teams are doing it because they're having to do it. There's not a coach out there that wants to be dealing with 30 to 40 guys every year going out the door. I mean, it's how are you supposed to sustain that, especially if you're at a place that doesn't have resources? I don't know if you guys remember Dave Clawson's press conference when he decided to step away from Wake Forest, and Jim Larinaga, same thing at Miami. And they're kind of just throwing their hands up and saying, how are we supposed to compete in this world? It's not everybody's Alabama, not everybody's Georgia, not everybody's Texas, and Ohio State, and a handful of others that can live in that world exclusively.
Even a guy like Tony Bennett, who won a national championship at Virginia, he's saying, "Man, that's not what I signed up for."
Yeah. And listen, I know there's a bit of a get off my lawn, mentality that people want to apply to maybe folks my age, 50 or over. But I think the thing is, when I talk to coaches, they know what the deal is, right? They're not pushing back on the change. They're frustrated because there's no way to navigate it, there's no way to police it, and there's no way to govern it. So there's not, and if everybody's not playing with the same deck of cards, how are you supposed to meet a standard and expectation at whatever institution you're at if you don't know what the controllables are? Because right now there's none of those. So when I talk to coaches, they'd love to be exclusively at the high school level. And I think the thing they're scared of the most, and I'm going to say something here and it's not going to be well received by some people, but when a guy is in the portal, you have to ask yourself one simple question: why is he in there? And if you do your homework and you start to uncover things that aren't overly flattering, stay away from the guy. No matter how talented he is, no matter how enticing he may be, if you uncover problems, you're going to adopt those problems. And does that make you better or worse? Does that affect your locker room in a positive way or a negative way? Because quite honestly, there's a ton of guys that go into the transfer portal that are in there because they're frustrated that things aren't going their way, or they're being asked to compete to earn something instead of being handed something. And they want to be handed something so that they think the grass is greener somewhere else. I'm going to go over to this place and then this staff's going to hand it to me. That's not how it works.
No.
So I think competitive temperament is a huge component in the transfer portal world when you're making decisions on guys.
Great information, as always, from our man Tom Luganbill, college football analyst, ESPN. Luke, I think we're going to try to touch base with you later on this week. I know you got some plans next week, so I'll get with you about that. We'll set a day and a time, and looking forward to really going over this national championship game a week from tonight in Atlanta.
Sounds good, guys. Have a great rest of your week. Looking forward to talking at the end of it.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. Tom Luganbill. Whoa, my headsets are falling off today. My heads must be getting smaller. Brought to you by our good friends at River Bank and Trust. Welcome to banking above and beyond at River Bank and Trust. Local banking expertise, the newest innovations in technology, personal attention, genuine hospitality. It's all just part of the River Bank and Trust difference. They invite you to experience it for yourself with locations throughout the River region and locations throughout the state of Alabama. It is River Bank and Trust. All right. When we come back, I got a Monday night winner for you in the NFL wildcard weekend. I know we got to get to the wheel as well. And
an admission from you viewers out there when Tom Luganbill said, I don't know if you guys remember the 2010 Iron Bowl. How many of you went?
Yeah.
Me. How many of you, especially you Auburn fans, can take a legal pad and write down every play of the second half and who made it? You know he's saying, well, I think the linebacker was Trey Williams. Everybody's going, yes, it was Trey Williams. That kind of stuff.
The one memory that I've got that sticks out more than any, and I remember the tightrope play and the Trent Richardson and Cam Newton and all that kind of stuff. I remember, but I remember at halftime distinctly. I can see it right now. I walk out of the press box. There's an area right behind it that Bob from Prattville was there. Several other people that I grew up with, friends of mine that I know. We would always kind of meet there. At halftime.
Compare notes
and compare notes.
Yeah.
And I remember they're sitting there and they're all giddy and they're high-fiving and all this kind of stuff. And I'll never forget walking up to them because Auburn scored right before halftime and they're getting the ball to start the third quarter. I said, fellas, this game ain't over.
And Bob
hit the brakes.
Bob from Prattville is, he's throwing a hot dog wrapper at you saying, come on.
He hit me with that big, deep laugh.
Yeah. The memories. Well, yeah, the Victoryland 777 topic wheel coming up. And that winner on tonight's game
Yeah.
in the playoffs?
Coming up.
Why would you tune out now? It's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Located just 8 miles north of Alabama's state capital, Capitol Hill features 3 18-hole championship courses. With more than 1,500 acres of golf and nature, the pure magnitude of this facility is amazing and allows each course to be drastically different from the others. Capitol Hill also features an innovative 360-degree driving range, 400 yards in diameter. Known by avid golfers as one of the most beautiful and challenging stops on the trail, Cambrian Ridge in Greenville lies just 40 miles from Montgomery. It is well worth the ride for any golfer looking for 27 holes of jaw-dropping golf. The greens have been redesigned to accommodate the higher green speed associated with our installation of the latest generation of ultra-dwarf Bermuda grass. Both locations offer fully stocked pro shops with all the latest equipment and apparel. Great food and beverages in the clubhouse can be enjoyed both before and after your round. Get your group together and hit the trail. Go to rtjgolf.com.
Heads or tails, kick or receive, with the wind or against the wind. Buy your friend a Bud Light. Buy a stranger a Bud Light. Go to your team's bar. Go to the opposing team's bar. Buy a round during the next truck commercial. Buy a round during the next talking duck commercial. If you're truly up for whatever this weekend, grab the perfect beer for whatever happens. Crisp, refreshing Bud Light. Make 2 plans and let the NFL coin toss make the call. Enjoy responsibly. Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
Local banking expertise, the newest innovations and technology, personal attention, genuine hospitality. It's all just part of the River Bank and Trust difference. They invite you to experience it for yourself. Welcome to banking above and beyond at River Bank and Trust. Locations throughout the River region, locations throughout the state of Alabama. River Bank and Trust. All right, welcome back in, everybody. About 27 minutes past the hour. Corey says I'm off my rocker, Barry, saying that I'm having college football fatigue.
Yeah, we're going Gran Torino here with Clint Eastwood telling all those punks to get off of his yard. He says, time to retire if you have college football fatigue. No one that truly loves college football is saying that they wish the season was over or shorter. That's a crazy take. I'm with you.
I never said I want. I never said I want the season to be over. I just think the calendar's too spread out. They need to condense it a little bit, Corey. I don't like these long layoffs and these long periods of time between games. Why are we waiting around?
Why not start August 23rd? Huh?
I mean, doesn't it, like the Independent School Association in Alabama, they start about August the 1st, it seems like. I mean, they're way early. Hey, they're playing spring football. I mean, the USFL or whatever it's called, UFL, they're starting up in the spring. You got that working for you there, Corey, if you like that.
From the open file of do as I say, not as I do. John hated fall preseason camp. HATED. Hated it. Too hot. They'd mow the grass and you'd get stuck all over you, and hated it. But now this young crop of whippersnappers, get them out there early. Yeah, come on.
Some people didn't like spring because, back in the day when you were actually playing football and it was physical and bull in the ring and the coach was getting in your grill. I mean, now they're like your buddies. But the spring was tough, but the weather was okay. And I mean, you're kind of dragging out there going, I got to go out here again today. But I have to say, I had it pretty good. I mean, I compared to these linemen and these other people that were beating up on each other every day. I mean, I was just over there running the scout team. So, it was pretty good for me. But, that you're right. Fall, hot, humid. Been out a little bit too late the night before, and you got to go to that early morning practice part of 2-a-days. It was tough. It was tough. But I'm not complaining. But I am complaining about the length and the schedule. That's all I'm saying. Give me more teams. Let's just try to make the schedule a little bit better. I mean, Barry, I'm all about scheduling. I like to be on a schedule, and I like to plan ahead, and I like to know what's on the calendar. That's just all I'm saying.
It's the same mindset where I know when John is going to be having off days in, I think it's January of 26.
Yeah.
He's all about a schedule. The man has got to have a schedule. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I buried. Not so. Well, we need a winner tonight to have a non-losing weekend. So we need a winner here. And this game is the last of the wild card weekend games. And they've moved it from LA to Arizona. I think that's maybe why the line moved a little bit. Vikings went from a 1-point favorite to 2.5. Okay. This will be the Vikings' third road game in the last 4 weeks.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the second trip to the West Coast.
If they had just won last week against Detroit, they could have saved themselves a road game. Okay.
That's right.
All right.
Now, after seeing how well these coaches game plan for one another in their last meeting, given that Sean McVay had extra time to prep for this one, you got to give the Rams a strong look. If any unit is getting tired and worn down at this point of the season, I think it's the Vikings defense. Can Darnold erase the demons of Sunday night against the Lions? I think so, but I'm not sure he's going to have enough. I'm not sure. And going score for score with Matthew Stafford, former Georgia product, and the Rams is a tall order. Barry, I think making a lot out of this game being moved,
right?
I don't think that makes a big deal.
Okay,
I really don't. And Sean McVay giving him a little extra time. I'm with you. I love the points here. I'm going to take the Rams. I'm not saying they can win the game outright, but I'm going to take the 2.5, and I'm taking the Rams tonight against the Vikings in the last wild card NFL game tonight on ESPN, I believe.
Yes. No, it's on ABC tonight.
ABC.
Yeah, ABC tonight. And that would set up again if not only do the Rams cover, but if they also win the game outright, that would set up the divisional round, and that would put the winner against the Eagles. I believe the division round starts on Saturday. 2 Saturday games this upcoming week and 2 Sunday games.
Beautiful.
This is when things really start to get difficult. I wonder if we're going to hear from the Phantom maybe later on, or if
yes, you will hear from the Phantom later on. Maybe on Thursday. We'll have to wait and see. We're going to do some scheduling with Luganville and the Phantom later in the week, but more on that as we get later on in the week. So I got the Rams tonight. I'm catching the points, but I'm not sure I'm going to need them. I could see them winning this game outright.
There you go. That's that wraps up the divisional round. That wraps up the college football weekend before we get into the division. I mean, that wraps up the wild card round. That wraps up the football weekend until we get the division round of the NFL. And a week from today, they will crown a national champion in college football. Again, it will not come from the SEC. Has the SEC lost its fastball?
I think Luganville, Barry, makes a lot of great points.
He does.
And I'm not sure people are going to, you're not going to hear Fowler and Herb Street say this while Ohio State is playing. But is that the future of college football? And that's where I'm really concerned about the Auburns and the Alabamas of the world. It is blatantly obvious that Ohio State went out and bought the best football team they could find. And he mentioned it. Quinchon Judkins, Caleb Downs, several others for that Ohio State team. And they didn't hide it. They went out and spent it, and they got it done. Lost a couple of games on the road at Oregon early in the year. Completely flat against Michigan, which still blows my mind. I mean, I don't know, maybe Ryan Day has a thing for Michigan, kind of like Saban had at Jordan-Hare. It was just something about it. Hard place to win, just, gets off your mojo. I don't know. But to me, and I've said it for weeks now, Ohio State passes the eye test. They look like the best team out there. In the last couple of weeks, they've played like it. But how does Auburn and Alabama and other schools that, are similar to them, how do they compete? with that year in and year out? Is this a one-year deal? Did Ohio State just push all their chips to the center of the table and say, we're in and we're buying everybody and this is our year? Or will they continue to do that?
I would imagine they've got the wherewithal to do it. They would continue to do it. Michigan, maybe a year late. They did win the championship last year. They have got a sugar daddy. Can't remember his name, but he is saying, hey, look, we'll do whatever we need to do. And Michigan, they got this 5-star kid named Bryce Underwood that they spent a lot of money on. It's happening everywhere where the schools that have the resources are scouting around. And the Wake Forests, we're talking about still Power 4 schools, the Wake Forests and the Northwesterns and some of the other schools are just saying, boy, we can't do that.
So, Barry,
we can't come close to doing that.
Let's hit the fast forward button. And we've seen what Ohio State has done. You mentioned what Michigan is doing. From what I understand, LSU has spent a ton of money this year. I don't know if they can sustain it in Louisiana, but I understand they've spent a lot this year. Texas is known to have a lot of money, A&M. Do people in California care enough about college football to get Southern Cal in that category? Who knows? But let's just say 5-10 years from now, we've had the same schools playing for the national title and or winning it, and it's about 5 or 6 different schools, and they're all spending a ton of money and picking the best players off other teams due to NIL deals, and the Alabamas and the Auburns and the Arkansas and the Ole Misses and the Floridas, and I can name 100 more, can't compete.
The Ole Misses are, though, here's a couple of things. It's surprising to me that Ole Miss has been as active successfully as they have been in the transfer portal. I mean, it's a wonderful school, but can they sustain the money that they're laying out every year? I don't see it. Texas Tech is spending a bunch of money. Texas Tech, how in the world is that happening? And they've gotten some guys. Those are schools that, maybe can, get all their pennies in a sack and once every 5, 6, 7 years can go splurge. But number one, they can't do that every year. And number two, that's blowing up what they had built up to this point with their roster. And thinking, Coach, I've been a 3-year starter, and now you're paying some guy $750,000 to come in and take my place? That's injurious to the whole culture. The answer is that you can't do it. You can't have that. You can't continue to do that without any guardrails. Everybody says so, John. You've said so. There's got to be a structure somehow, some way, and it's not necessarily because everybody wants Wake Forest to have a fair chance or everybody wants Boston College to be good again. It's because it's not sustainable for anybody. There's got to be a better way than being able to spend 5 times more than an NFL quarterback makes, a starting NFL quarterback makes, for 1 year of Carson Beck. I don't know. Carson Beck ain't that good to me, if you're going to spend $4 million a year on somebody, he wouldn't be the guy. So, some things have got to change because it's not good for the sport to absolutely know that there's not going to be any more TCUs.
So what I'm frustrated with, Barry, not only the how long the college football season is that we've talked about, and I know Corey can't understand why I've got college football fatigue. And yes, it is a week later than the national champion was crowned last year, but so much time in between those 4 teams that had an off week that all lost, and just the gaps in between these games. That's my biggest problem, Corey. And of course, the extra week is one as well.
Yeah.
But Barry, what we've just talked about, why don't people that are a lot smarter than us, why can't they figure it out? They got to know what we know. College football cannot sustain itself if we got teams like Ohio State picking and choosing and plucking the best players off other people's teams, all due to money. Because out of the 130 something plus D1 football programs, they all cannot do it. I'd say 120 of them can't do it.
You are right. There are a lot of really, really smart people that are hoping and working towards fundamental change. The problem is on the other side of the coin, there are agents, there are lawyers who are just as smart, maybe even smarter, who love things the way they are. Some of these agents for college football, somebody had this yesterday on a national talk show. Somebody was asking, how in the world, when an NFL agent gets 4%, maybe 5% from one of their clients' contracts, are some college football agents, and they're not really agents. They're just people. You don't have to be registered. You don't have to be accredited. How some of the college football agents are getting 20% or more. And he said, well, with an NFL player, sometimes you have a contract for 5 years. For an NCAA player, you only have a contract for 2 years. So while we may be making $100,000 a year in, the money we make off of a player in the NFL, we're only making about, $40,000 a year off a college football player. Well, so, the college football player is the career isn't as long. So the point is that there are a lot of people on the other side who want the status quo to stay the same. They don't care a thing about the health of college football. Are you kidding me? They don't care at all that it's not fair for Wake Forest or it's not fair for Boston College. They could care less. They are people who are all of a sudden agents because they decide to call themselves so, and they are lawyers who have been feasting on the NCAA so far. The reason why all this has come to a head is because the NCAA has been losing lawsuits left and right again over this whole thing. The lawyers are smart. They want to keep things the way they are. Some of the agents are pretty smart. They want to get while the getting's good. And right now they have the upper hand.
And I wonder about fan fatigue. They just, had enough. Guys are getting paid too much. They're not loyal to my school. Luke's talked about Notre Dame and the makeup of that team. And it does seem kind of like an old school type team. They lose to Northern Illinois earlier in the year and they regroup and they get it together and focused. You don't see a lot of me with Notre Dame. It's all of a team aspect. You don't see a lot of guys showboating and, wanting the spotlight on them and doing a bunch of crazy stuff. I think fans get turned off a lot by that type of stuff, particularly when you're gouging them for money each and every season. Things are getting more expensive. The hassle of going to a game, all that type stuff. You would think they would be fast tracking it to try to figure out how to get some of these issues dealt with.
Circle back to 10 years ago when if you were a big money donor, not only were you only being asked to give a little extra when there's a capital improvement project, but, your seat license and your money for your skybox or your money for your basketball tickets or season baseball tickets. That's what you're being asked for. And a lot of times, 10 years ago, when you made those donations, it was tax deductible. A lot of it was, at least. It was tax deductible. You could write it off as a business expense because you're bringing clients up there to Jordan-Hare Stadium. You can't do that anymore. And now, not only are they asking you for that and asking you for more for that, but hey, golly, we got to get you involved in our NIL. We got to get you involved because we've got to buy this player group and everything. And you can't, there's no tangible return. There's no, that's not tax deductible either. And it's like Nick Saban said. He said there's no benefit to people who are contributing to the NIL above and beyond what they're also contributing. And as well, 10 years ago, John, well, back when we were kids, further back than that, you know what I enjoyed? When I was growing up, Gator fan, we're looking and we're talking with my buddies and with my dad and everything and saying, man, I really like the look of this guy. We're redshirting, boy, by the time he gets to be a senior, he'll be a real contributor to the team. Or he would say, golly, that guy, as a sophomore, I know he got hurt, but man, if he gets healthy by the time he's a junior, you can't do that anymore.
No. Heck
you
no.
can't do that at all because that guy ain't going to be there, or somebody else is going to be there in his place from Kansas State or something. And you're thinking, well, I got to find out more about this Kansas State guy. He's only going to be here a year. So, do you really root for them as much as you root for the guys that you've been tracking ever since they first got onto your campus for, 3 years ago? It's a different world. It's difficult. The quality of the content, the watching of the games, I'm telling you, that Ohio State game against Texas was terrific. And the Penn State Notre Dame game was even better. The quality is better, but for the fans who love their school, the circumstances are worse.
Yep. No, I totally agree. Totally agree. Well, the circumstances are going to get really good when we return from our next break because we're going to spin the Victorland 777 topic wheel. You ready, Chris? Buckle up.
That's our commitment to you with Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.
Hey, folks, you got to take advantage of the incredible holiday savings at Stivers Ford in Montgomery, where they sell America's best-selling truck for 50 years in a row, the F-150. And you can get an F-150 at 1.9% APR for 60 months or up to $15,000 off MSRP and no payments for 90 days. Hundreds to choose from. Your F-150 is on the lot right now. Also, F-150 Lightnings, $15,000 off MSRP and 0% APR for 72 months. What about the stylish Ford Bronco? Up to $10,000 off MSRP, starting as low as $34,990. And it started it all with the Ford Explorer. You can get one for up to $8,000 off MSRP, as low as $33,900 and 1.9% APR for 66 months. Folks, Stivers Ford is loaded with cars, trucks, and SUVs priced to sell. Stivers Ford, 4000 Eastern Boulevard in Montgomery, where price sells cars.
Some days you hit snooze, but not today. Today you have to go on a run to get burgers for the tailgate. You've got to haul something heavy, a cooler stocked with Bud Light. When you've got beer and football, nothing is hard. Until the other team scores. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Enjoy responsibly. 21 plus, copyright 2024 Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
The Destin Connection Seafood Market offers the freshest seafood direct from the Gulf of Mexico with deliveries daily. Snapper, grouper, pompano, flounder, copia, along with medium, large, and jumbo shrimp, hand-picked crab meat, and chucked oysters. They can even cook your order for easy, quick pickup. The Destin Connection can make a po' boy with any of their seafood items that folks in New Orleans rave about. Go by and see them at 3750 Norman Bridge Road or call 288-4272 for pickup orders.
Okay, back at it here on this Monday. Glad you're with us here, Longshore and McKnight. Presented by Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Chris says he's been ready. All right, Chris, who has got a chance to win the bold prediction contest. Chris, I don't want to put the whammy on you. I know you're way down in there, but you got Ohio State to win it, and C.D. Powell has got Notre Dame. So it looks like a two-horse race, but we could have somebody else come up from behind. You never know how it'll play out a week from tonight from Atlanta. All right, Gern, there's the wheel. It is up. It is ready, slowly moving, ready to take a big, big spin. So go at it. The Victorland 777 topic wheel is going to land on, oh, beautiful. Great. Whistles, as in too many. Talked about this earlier. Barry, I think I'm going to boycott SEC basketball until they start doing it more my way.
How would they notice? How could they tell? Geez.
I can't take the whistles. 58 fouls called in the Alabama-Texas A&M game, 88 free throws. I'm not watching a free throw exhibition. That's not what I'm paying my hard-earned money. I went at the game, but I pay for my YouTube TV. I ain't doing it. Not doing it.
How am I going to spend my hard-earned money? I mean, if I was to go, yeah, that is a lot. That is a lot. It's the way, it's not that way every game.
It
but
seems
it was a
like
lot
it
for that game. If there's if there's 48 free throws made instead of 88, that's too many.
Barry, when the refs call that many fouls, you start recognizing them. Oh, I remember that guy. Oh, yeah. He calls a lot of fouls. I don't want to recognize the officials.
Well, you
can't help
website. There's a website out there that rates all the officials. You can go and you can look down the list. Oh, Ted Valentine, he calls 1.8 fouls per 5 minutes. And 68% of his calls go for the home team, and you can do all that kind of stuff. It's with the way people play right now, where you can pretty much dribble however you want to. You can put your hand all over the ball if you want to. They ain't calling Paulman for a million. So you have a extra control of the basketball on a penetration move, on a drive. You can contact everybody all over the place, and as long as you're vertical or the contact does not result in an advantage, they're going to let you play. I mean, you need to have helmets out there sometimes. A lot of it has to do with the way teams play with Oats's group. I mean, they are trying to get to the dish every time, and maybe they'll dunk, maybe they'll kick it back out. Everything is trying to get into the lane. So there's going to be a lot of bodies there. But there are also some games where there are not 88 free throws. Auburn played South Carolina, and Auburn is, pretty active defensively, really active defensively. And they like to get to the glass on offense. Auburn in that game against South Carolina, 6 of 12 from the free throw line. And South Carolina in that game, 9 for 16. There were 28. There were 60 fewer free throws in the Auburn game than there were
That's
in
ridiculous.
the Alabama game.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
60.
And Oates talks about 3-hour basketball games. He said 3 hours is for football, not for basketball. And here's another thing that gripes me. I know what time the Bama game's coming on Saturday. I got to go to ESPN News or the app to watch the first 8 minutes of it because the game before it is going long because why? Whistles.
It's a tragedy. It really is. John having to go to an app. I mean, that's 2 or 3 extra clicks.
No kidding. Plus, I got the NFL game on Prime Video. That's another bunch of clicking.
Oh, my gosh. Hang on.
Oh, Saturday night was tough. It was a tough night.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So there is that. It's one of those things I don't see a solution for. Because basketball, the way basketball evolves, is like trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube. All of a sudden, they're not going to say, okay, we're going to start calling things a lot tighter on contact in the lane. Because then you're going to have 128 free throws until people start to figure, we got to go back to the 1967 model where every dribble was your hand on top of the basketball, and you had a bunch of what J.J. Redick used to call firemen and plumbers in the offseason playing basketball and two-hand sets.
Well, I mean, they changed the charging rule, and then they put the half circle in the lane. I mean, they're changing rules all the time, so just swallow the whistle. Oh, I mean, if it gets a little more physical, I'm okay with that. Good.
Unless it's the team John has money on, then hey, come on now.
I mean, Barry, I want to see more flopping. I want to see more physical stuff. And speaking of that, before I go to the wheel, I got to bring this up. People want to know why I spend my $9.95 every month.
Oh! I know what this means.
Yeah, and
John, in this day where John. You ever notice that John never talks about his money? It's always his hard-earned money.
Yeah, hard-earned money.
John, how in the world do you justify spending $9.95 of your hard-earned money as a platinum subscriber to Auburn Undercover?
Well,
Why,
here
John? Why?
is an example why.
Okay.
And if, I've been reading Philip since he was at the Montgomery Advertiser, and I used to read him when I was at Cloverdale Junior High School in the library.
Unlike Bono and Cher and Madonna, Philip Marshall truly has earned the one name
yes.
right. When
Correct.
he talks about Philip, that's like saying, John, Madonna who? Cher who? No, when he says Philip, there's only one Philip.
So in the Sunday musings.
Oh, not Coffee with Philip?
Not Coffee with Philip.
Oh,
this
today.
is Sunday Reflections from Auburn and Beyond.
Okay.
One of my favorite columns. Down in his parting shot, it's right at the bottom. This is vintage Philip.
All right. Parting shots. Let me scroll. Okay. All right.
Aiden Holloway is a much better player this season at Alabama than he was last season at Auburn. I read that and I went, wow, really? Man, that is a compliment, man. But boom, right under it, does any SEC coach complain to officials as much as Alabama's Nate Oates? Whew, props you up, and then he yanks the rug right out from under you. Folks, that is genius.
Well, again,
not everybody can do that.
There's nobody who say not everybody, not anybody can ask himself a question better than Philip Marshall can.
No doubt.
Nobody. The best play caller in college football? That's a question he asks of himself, and his answer is Steve Sarkisian. Later on, is Carson Beck worth $4 million? Yeah.
So what my question though, Barry, does Nate Oates complain to the officials more than anybody else, or did he just see him Saturday night in Texas A&M when they had 58 fouls called? I'd be complaining too. I'd be raising all kinds of hell
on him. I don't put a stopwatch out on him, but I'll tell you this, and I don't compare, hey, who's number one in the SEC and complaining to officials? Bruce is no virgin in that regard himself.
No kidding.
But if anybody gripes more than John Calipari at Arkansas, and I called one of his games this year live, I was about 20 feet away from him. I'm thinking, come on.
Yeah.
Is every foul against your team an abomination against nature? Come on, Coach.
And I thought, wow, this is so nice. He's saying something nice about a former Auburn player that's gone to Alabama and is really playing a lot better. And then boom, sets me up and just hits me with the knockout punch.
See, I like good writing. I'm a reader. As you can tell, I got 10 times the number of books in my library here than you see just behind me. I like good writing. This is why I pay my $9.95. I read the whole thing. I love me some Jason Caldwell. Give me a little Nathan King. Give me a little Christian Clemente at auburnundercover.com. But this is why Philip is still at this business for so many years, besides maybe a bad investment or two. He says, quote, now listen to this. This is great prose. This is great writing in the English language. Auburn's basketball team is really good. Florida's basketball team is really good. He's not done yet. Alabama's basketball team is really good. Tennessee's basketball team is really good. Mississippi State, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Texas, Georgia, and Texas A&M might be really good.
Yeah.
John, that is inspired writing.
Well, it is. And the quick hitters, it's just so many topics, quickly hit, not a lot of detail. It's just boom, this is it.
Questions.
Love it. Absolutely love it. But those last two kind of surprised me there.
John's like, all right.
Yeah. Man, really?
That's the rabbit punch behind that.
As Chris the Bammer says, brilliant. That's the best way to describe it, Chris.
Well, he also says reading for PM is like reading the articles in Playboy. I don't know what that means.
I used to love the articles in Playboy. They were the best. They were awesome.
Yeah, okay.
No, really, I did. Yeah. I mean, I checked out other
preview doesn't count.
I will say this, Barry. I checked out other things first. I went to other parts of the magazine first, And then I would go and then, start at the front and start reading all the articles and stuff.
Well,
but I'll admit,
our thanks to the contributions to the program from Tom Luganbill from ESPN. Also, going the extra mile to get a pick in from the Phantom about tonight's wild card game. Appreciate it.
Chris,
as well.
Don't worry. We will finish what we missed on the wheel tomorrow.
Yes.
We didn't get to get through with the entire wheel, but we'll do that tomorrow and add a couple of more topics to that. So be ready for that. All right, tomorrow, Brian Matthews, AuburnSports.com. Travis Ryer on YouTube, Talking Tide. We'll do that tomorrow, and more talk about the national championship game, the divisional playoffs in the NFL, and not a full slate, but a pretty good card in the SEC tomorrow night, headed up by Auburn and Alabama, both tipping at 6 p.m.
At home. It should be good for sure. Our thanks to all of the people who are checking in with us. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. Make sure you tell your friends. In association with Yellowhammer News, it's Longshore and McKnight, presented by Bud Light.